Welcome to What You Came Here to Create, the podcast to support driven, ambitious women who know that they're capable of more. I'm your host, Beck Sands. I am an author, a PR consultant, I'm a visibility mentor, I'm a certified coach, and I've also been in business for over 7 years. So together we are going to discover the mindset, the courage, the visibility, and the self-trust to support you to bring to life the business or the creative project on your own terms. But most importantly, this is a really safe space that you can come back to feel more grounded, because this work can feel so deeply dysregulating, but it doesn't have to. So let's take a deep breath and together, let's trust ourselves and get ready to do the work that we came here to create. Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the What You Came Here to Create podcast. It is so lovely to be here with you on this beautiful sunny afternoon here in Newcastle as I am recording this. And today's topic is all about feeling the fear and doing it anyway. Now, this was first coined many, many years ago by an American psychologist, I believe she is, Susan Jeffers. And she has a book on this topic. And I actually love this book. I read it many years ago, and I'm actually reading it again now because I'm doing a whole bunch of things outside my comfort zone at the moment. And so I am delving into that again, and it's excellent. So I highly recommend a read if you haven't already read Susan Jeffers' book, Feeling the Fear and Doing It Anyway. And yeah, this is such a topic that is dear to my heart. So I first heard this phrase, not actually from Susan Jeffers, but from Darren Rouse, who, for those of you who don't know, is Pro Blogger. Now, Pro Blogger was huge back in the day when I was very first starting out as a coach. This was like around, it was actually before I became a coach. So it was around 2012. And this was when I really started my business endeavors, I guess. This is when I first realized that I didn't really want to be building a career. I was actually on the wrong ladder, and that I perhaps wanted to do something creative and build my own business. But of course, I had a lot of fear around that, growing up with, single mum, financial challenges, one of 3 kids, and it was very challenging. And I also had a lot of blocks around money, right? And so going from the career that I'd spent so many years building and had a degree in and had, really worked hard to get to the top, it felt like, why am I wanting to give this up? But at the same time, I did really feel like I could potentially do better on my own. And I'm 7 years into business now, and reflecting on this journey, I'm so glad that I persisted despite the fear and resistance, but I have taken it really, really slowly. Okay, so that has been key for me. I've had a whole host of challenges in my career as well as in my business. And even though it looks on paper pretty linear, in terms of going, into being promoted and my career sort of trajectory, and then reaching direct level by early 30s, and then growing a business and being able to successfully replace my income within 18 months, and then growing it beyond that, and continuing to grow it today, 7 years in, and having a thriving business. But it's not linear. And anyone who has created success in the way that they want to for themselves, which a freedom-based business is for me, that is my version of success, they will know that it's not linear, right? So your success is never going to be linear, and you are going to face challenges along the way, and every fear you have ever had will come up, every limiting belief, particularly if you're getting out of your comfort zone and you're trying something new and you're forging new neural pathways, I guess, in your brain that will help you to get used to new things like visibility, like, doing podcasting or videos or media or writing lots of content for your audience or putting your work out there in general and taking risks in your business and pitching your ideas and pitching to new clients and, putting proposals together, and every single step of the way, this is going to feel scary, okay? Because it's just a normal human reaction. It's nothing to feel ashamed of, or it's nothing to feel like you're the only one, because you're not, okay? So Darren Rouse at the Pro Blogger Conference back in, I think it was like 2012 or 2013, on the Gold Coast, my husband got us tickets when I decided to start my blog, Daily Inspiration Board, because I'd lost inspiration in my day-to-day and I didn't know how to get it back. And so I was like, I'm going to write about it. I'm going to write about inspiration. I'm going to just every single day I'm going to do a blog, and it's going to help me to refine and hone my writing skills, but also keep me accountable to myself in terms of committing to do this creative project. It'll give me hopefully inspiration. I had the blog eventually for 2 years, and it did inspire me. It did give me some inspiration, and it did help me to, I guess, get out of that career rut I was in and focus on something that brought me joy. And it was definitely on the path of what I wanted to create. I wasn't quite there yet in terms of the blog, but it definitely gave me something that just really gave me a purpose away from just the day-to-day kind of grind, if you like, of my career, of feeling like I was just making money for money's sake, and that was invaluable because it really helped me to understand what I really enjoyed doing. And it also helped me to understand that there's other things out there, right? And if you've got the discipline and the tenacity to go after them, you can create whatever you want. And so that really was infused in me throughout the blog process. But about Darren, so he got up on stage, and this was like day one of the Pro Blogger Conference on the Gold Coast back in like 2012. And he said, and I remember this so clearly because it was so foreign to me at the time, but he said, feel the fear and do it anyway. And he explained how with the Pro Blogger Conference, he had been up for nights and, not sleeping, and he was stressing out, and it was a huge stretch for him and got him well out of his comfort zone. And there was a huge amount of discomfort and fear that he felt putting together that conference. And I had never heard anyone in a leadership position talk like that. Like, no one ever admitted to being scared, or no one ever admitted to feeling fear. And it was really kind of strange to behold, but I also took it as a huge permission slip. It was like, okay, so if I'm afraid, that doesn't mean that I can't do it, And I think that's what really supported me to go after what I wanted to do. I really had that in mind. And it was a bit of a life-changing speech for me because I really didn't know that I could go after what I wanted before that. I thought that fear meant I should stop, and I thought that if I am feeling those things, then I should just go back to the safety of a career. Maybe I'm not cut out for it because I'm feeling all these, scary emotions, and maybe I should just stay safe and take the secure path and just, just stay in my lane and all of those things. And I feel like this is a really common one for people, that they feel like maybe I'm not cut out for this. Or maybe I want to avoid anxiety, or maybe I want to be secure. And a lot of us really, like, one of the core things that we are seeking is security and peace ultimately, and just wanting to feel at ease. And actually, one of my biggest definitions of success is peace, because I think that if you can make a lot of money, you don't necessarily feel peaceful. If you've got a lot of stress and anxiety, then you're not going to feel that peace. Similarly, if you have no money, it's not very peaceful, right? Because you're always wondering how you're going to survive, how you're going to pay the next bill, how you're going to make everything happen, and you're living week to week or day to day or month to month. And that isn't peaceful either. And so I always think like peace is actually something that perhaps it's somewhere in the middle between those two extremes, but also perhaps it's a different path altogether. Maybe it's carving your own path and surrounding yourself with things and people and activities that make you feel peaceful. And maybe money is a tool for those things, but it's not the be all and end all. And I personally am not willing to give up my peace to grow a multi-million dollar business. I love business growth. Don't get me wrong. I am growing my business. I want to diversify my revenue. I'm not willing to give up my freedom or my peace or my peace of mind to do that, And so I haven't always been super clear on this, but certainly a few years into business, I got clearer and clearer that I didn't want the path of working 24/7 or burning out. I did that in corporate. I had a whole host of health challenges, which resulted in medical PTSD and anxiety. I'm not saying that my career was, the reason for this, but it certainly didn't help. And I certainly just, I had the desire when I stepped into business that I would not do that to myself again. I was like, if you don't have your health, you have literally nothing and you can't do anything. And so therefore health is very, very important. It's like my number one thing. And so therefore that's got to be the priority and not achieving or like making heaps and heaps and heaps and heaps of money. It's not about that. It's about having a life that I really love living. It's about having time and space and freedom to choose who I work with and to choose my options. And if I don't resonate with a client, then the freedom to be able to choose again and say no to different things and to do work that actually feels good to do. Not saying that everything I do in my business feels great. Like, yes, I do boring shit that I don't want to do, like my tax return and updating my P&L and all of that kind of stuff. And not every single thing that I do is joyful and, like lights me up and all that kind of stuff. But overall, I have a really good life balance and I really enjoy the work that I do and I do help others and I want to do more of helping others. And that's how I approach it rather than just more money, more stuff, I'm like, I'm not willing to sacrifice my peace for more stuff. Before we get back to today's episode, I'm so excited to let you know that my new book, What You Came Here to Create, is now available for pre-order. If you have ever felt called to create something meaningful, like a business, a book, a career change, a creative project, but you found yourself held back by things like fear, self-doubt, and perfectionism, then this book is for you. And if you pre-order before the 15th of September 2026, then you will get access to my Visible Unicorn Challenge as a special gift where I will support you and guide you through the mindset, the self-trust, and the visibility practices to support you to put your work out into the world with confidence and feeling more grounded than ever. So pre-order now via the link in the show notes and at cameheretocreate.com. So fear is absolutely a normal part of growth. It's a normal part of visibility. It's a normal part of every single level. It never completely goes away. Like every time you do something new, you're going to feel that fear as well. It's just that you've probably honed and refined and learned how you can move beyond that. The more that you do things that are outside of your comfort zone, because you get to know yourself better and you get to know your triggers, you get to know your responses and your reactions and how you can start to steer those towards things that serve you versus, doing the things that don't serve you. For example, so if you are feeling fear around doing something in your business, and, your go-to might be just to procrastinate by scrolling social media. That's one of mine. Talking from experience here. And you can catch that and say, okay, like, why am I resisting the work that I'm doing? Why am I not actually doing the work? And then you can start to look at the reasons why. Okay, because I feel like I'm going to get judged, or I feel like if I'm putting myself out there in that way that, I might fail, or I might be criticized, or I might not do it well enough. And then that means I'm not good enough. And that means that I'm going to fail. And then what does that ultimately mean? I'm going to die. Like your brain, like if you get to really like, and what, and then, and really just ask yourself like, okay, and what does that mean for me? So where is your brain really ultimately going? And then you can question it, because obviously that's not rational. That's like that kind of reptilian brain. That's the unconscious really looking at, what's going to keep us safe and how we can keep ourselves safe. And so what you want to do is to not put that anxious kind of person or that side of yourself into the driver's seat all the time. And I did this exercise with my therapist a while ago, and it was like, who's driving the bus? Who's driving the bus? So it's like, if you've got all these different little parts of you and you're all on a bus, who's the driver? Who do you want to be the driver? Is fear the driver? Is it resistance in the driver's seat? Or is it the part of you that is strong, the part of you that's confident, the part of you that is capable? So looking at all the different parts of yourself and who is actually driving and who do you want to be driving, and then you can consciously start to take action and make decision from that place versus a place of fear that I'm going to fail, that I'm going to mess this up. And it's so funny, I find, like how easily and quickly we can completely forget all of our experience and credentials. Like we can be put in front of, okay, I'm going to do an interview. Oh, I'm terrified of this interview. And then you're like, okay, hang on. Like I can't remember any of the knowledge that I have. Like what is all my experience? And you can literally forget it in a second. And then you have to question that and go, that is completely like myself trying to keep myself safe. But it's also like that limiting self-belief that comes up and goes, oh, I don't know enough. I need another credential, and you're discounting all of the experience. So if this is happening to you, it's like, know that you just need to take action. You need to keep taking action and moving through this. And if you do something that isn't quite like what you want in terms of the standard for yourself, like if you have an interview that you didn't feel went so well, or a speaking event that you feel like wasn't up to your usual standard, it's like, that's okay. Like we all have these days and we're human, right? So you want to like start to look at that and go, okay, how can I do better? How can I do better at that podcast recording? I did an interview recently where I was like, oh, I really need to hone and refine my key messages, because I feel like there was a bit of a missed trick in terms of I didn't talk about my coaching method. I could have said, I use the confidently visible coaching method, and that consists of confidence, strategy, and action. And this is the core of all of the work that I do with my clients. I feel like I could have said that, like there was definitely an opening, and instead I kind of just said something and then stopped. And I'm sure that, the interviewer wouldn't have known that. But for me, I was like, I need to step up in terms of, getting those key messages across and also like positioning myself as the expert in that space. And you can really only know that when you're doing it. Like I wouldn't have known that unless I'd done the interview and then gone, okay, cool. Like now next time I'll do it slightly differently. I will up level in X, Y, and Z way. And that's not like to be super self-critical. It's just to go, okay, cool. Like there's an opportunity to improve, to get better. And we want to always have this kind of beginner learner mindset where we look at how we can implement new ways of doing, new ways of being, new ways of thinking. And it's not a criticism of how we've been doing or thinking to date, but it's just a constant iteration of ourselves and improvement of ourselves. And that is how you create success, really, in any way, area, shape, or form that you want to, I guess, create success and achieve goals in, is just by incrementally up-leveling and incrementally getting better. You don't create success and you don't hit your goals by staying exactly the same and doing the same thing over and over, which is what that little fear-based voice in our minds wants us to do. All right, so that's all I've got for you today. I just want to do a little reiteration of what we chatted through. So fear is an absolutely normal part of being confidently visible, and it's a normal part of growth, and embracing the fear and doing it anyway is what everyone does that has ever done anything worthwhile. So feel the fear and do it anyway, as Susan Jeffers says. Confidence comes from taking action. It doesn't come from waiting until a day in the future that you feel ready, because I can tell you now that that day never comes. Readiness and the feeling that you're ready comes with taking consistent action. Small steps outside of your comfort zone can help you to build that courage and confidence to take bigger and bigger steps over time. So you don't need to go from not sharing anything to like sharing every single day on social media. You don't need to go from never doing a presentation to speaking in front of 1,000 people. You don't need to go from like never having done a media interview to doing a TV interview. You know, you can start small and get just a little bit out of your comfort zone, start to get used to that, and then you can start to do something bigger and bigger outside of your comfort zone to take bigger and bigger steps forward toward your goals. Preparation and practice can really support you as well to move through any fears around visibility. I know I definitely do like to prepare. Sometimes I can be over prepared, and that can actually make me more nervous because I feel like I need to hit every single talking point that I've set out for myself. And sometimes I actually find that I perform better when I allow the content and the words to flow through me. So instead of being performative, or instead of reading a script or just trying to hit every single message that has been written down, I will often just allow the words and the experiences to flow through me and then out, because that way I just feel like I am so much more, for lack of a better word, like authentic, but me, really. And I think that people get more value out of that ultimately, which is why I do that. And finally, you don't need to have everything perfectly figured out before you begin. So you will figure it out along the way. Thank you so much for watching today. I hope you have enjoyed this episode, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of What You Came Here to Create. If something in this episode resonated with you, I would love it if you would share it with a friend or share it on social media, and make sure that you tag me so that we can get this into the ears of more women who may need to hear this message. And before you go, just remember this: you don't need to have everything figured out before you begin. As you take the action, the clarity will come to you. So trust yourself and take the next step, and keep an eye out for the next episode of What You Came Here to Create.